Doctor, we cannot hear you. Let me see if I can unmute you.
No. Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Of course.
So good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for being here. I'm happy that you got to connect to this second part of a three-part webinar. Today, we are going to be addressing strategies for managing emotions in children, adolescents, and caregivers, especially during COVID-19 pandemic, which is what we are facing right now. First of all, I declare no conflict of interests in this presentation. Sorry for that. So the objectives for today is, first of all, identify the main emotions and their manifestations. Then we're going to try to recognize emotions as natural response that everyone experiences. And finally, provide strategies for managing emotions in children, adolescents, and adults. There's always space for questions. So if you have any questions, you could write them through the chat, and our moderator will help us with that at a certain point during the presentation. So if you have any questions, feel free to write it through the chat or send it through the chat, and we'll address it at the specific time when we address questions, okay? So now, I like to begin my presentations and my webinars trying to establish where are we and what is important to know prior to going full into our topic for today. It is very important to know that, for example, the National Association of School Psychologists, who researches a lot on communities that are facing certain struggles, have found that the feelings of uncertainty are particularly heightened for communities and families that are struggling to understand and cope with hate-based violence, discriminatory or threatening actions or speech, and shifting policies that are causing new uncertainties for specific populations. So along with going through this pandemic, there are other issues that specific communities are going through. So as schools throughout the United States and also Puerto Rico and worldwide, probably, countries are receiving students from diverse backgrounds. So when children are or come from diverse backgrounds, each one of them bring a unique culture and individual backgrounds. So students from diverse groups that have experience, for example, marginalization, may be especially vulnerable to stressors. This is very important that we take into consideration when dealing with our students in schools, right? Because there's a cultural factor, and their backgrounds have a lot to do on the way they respond to certain situations or to certain actions from other people. So also extremes, when children, even adolescents and adults, go through extreme stress and adversity, trauma, it can also have an effect on the way they can concentrate, their cognitive functioning, memory, and social relationships. So probably when we are talking about or we are addressing managing emotions, is because this also can have an effect on their learning process too. So when kids are in stress or suffering or going through a stressful situation, they could also produce internalized symptoms just like anxiety, depression, grief, fear, among others. Okay, so it is important to know. So what can we see in schools? According to NASP, we can see this mixed emotions and all this stress through absences, distracted behaviors, withdrawal, irritability, and other changes in students who may feel that probably their family members, their communities, their friends, people who are close to them and who they love can be have been being targeted in conversations and events around them. So probably they feel that people that are special to them are being attacked in a way or another. Okay, so it is important for us, well, all of us that are in contact with children, especially from children that are that come from targeted communities, right, or communities that are facing hardship in this moment, and other than because of the pandemic, that we could help those students um, develop the ability to self-regulate their behaviors, their emotions, and attention, so we can support them in their success as students and also in the non-academic areas, so we can promote a physical and emotional health. So what this means is that the emotional aspect or the emotional part of us as human beings also can affect our academic, our work environment, are the way we manage other situations in our lives. So that's the importance of knowing about emotions and how to control them or how to regulate our responses. So it is very, very important for all of us to be sensitive to family stressors. Okay. So probably we have access to the children or the adolescents, but we don't know what's going on behind closed doors. So probably their parents and other family members are dealing with a lot of stress or a lot of sensibility due to the current climate. So this can include different areas. The stress can come from having financial difficulty or uncertainty with their employment, their housing, their access to food or needs, basic needs. Also, we have been for quite some time now dealing with families worrying about deportations, the concerns about harassment, violence, loss of access to public benefits or health care, the distrust of public authorities, just like the police, right? Figures of authority that we should trust or we should usually trust, and general uncertainty about the future. So this pandemic has brought or represents an added bonus of stress for many of these families that usually or normally have to face many, many stressors. So the stress, both in children and in anyone, tends to be cumulative. So what this means is that we don't deal correctly with it, so it adds up. So when it adds up, the outcomes tend to be negative. So if we attend to that in a prevention mode, we can probably prevent um, uh, things going out of control or getting to a point where the consequences are negative. Okay. So what NAS states or stresses is that many cultures have different conceptualization of mental illness. Okay. So seeking help for mental health problems is usually stigmatized, and it varies from communities and cultures. So there can be cultures that can see that as a weakness in character, as opposed to something natural or a natural response to stressors, changes, adversity. So it is important for us to understand where our children are coming from, so we can understand even more the way they respond or the way they act upon a special situation or a specific situation. So sometimes the culture has a lot to do on the way we respond or react, or the way we look at things, right? So when we connect with those families and we know about their cultures and their backgrounds, the connection builds trust. So when we have trust, when people trust us, we can um, provide help and provide options and provide services, because they feel that we're doing it in a positive way, and that we're truly trying to help. So building that trust is very important. So having said that, let's get into what to me as a clinician and a school psychologist is a very, very important topic, and which I feel very passionate about, because many situations that we face as adults are linked to how we learn to control, first understand, and then control our emotions. So what are emotions? Emotions are psychological responses which are innate. This means that they're going to happen. It's incorrect to say that I am never going to feel angry, or because I am a doctor in psychology, I won't feel sad. Emotions are responses that are both psychological and physiological responses. This means that the impact of our emotions are going to be both in our mind and in our body. Okay, so emotions are not classified as good nor bad. Usually, we hear people saying that or classifying emotions like anger or disgust as bad emotions, and probably happiness and surprise and excitement as good emotions. And this is totally incorrect, and we'll find out why. So emotion is not other than an energy that moves or guides all of our actions. Why? Because it's something we feel, something our body produces, and we tend to act upon it. So when it's an energy, something we feel, and our actions are the results of what we feel. So there is a connection there. All of our emotions are important and necessary because they're innate, so they're going to happen. They're going to happen, so we need to understand what they are and how we can deal with them. So, as we stated at the beginning, many factors are going to um, um, are going to affect how we, or determine, sorry, how do we experience our emotions, right? If our cultural background states, as we presented at the beginning, that crying is related to being weak, well, we probably won't experience sadness or surprise or frustration the same way as someone whose cultural background doesn't limit their emotions in the same way. Okay, so the level of intensity in which emotions are felt does not necessarily mean that there's something wrong. And that was, right, some of the things we addressed at the beginning. Okay, the intensity of the emotions have to do with many factors. It doesn't mean that as more intense I feel anger means that the problem is bigger, or that there's a bigger situation going on. It has to do a lot with our personality and the way in which we are built, right? Our temperament too. So our temperament, it has a lot to do with how we respond. So emotions can arise in different ways and are identified differently. This is something I like to work with my patients that are small, 5, 6, 7-year-olds, I usually provide a blank silhouette, and I ask them to select a color. And usually when I asked for them to select a color for anger, they would choose either red or black, but usually it's red. So I tell them, how do you know that you're angry? And usually this comes after explaining what anger is. So they mark on that silhouette where they feel the anger. Some of them will color their hands red, and they say they start sweating. There are other kids that will color their head because they say their head starts hurting. Others will color their stomach. So what this means is that each one of us can know how the emotion um, starts arising in each one in each one differently. So it's not correct to say that everyone who feels anger will feel a headache or will feel their stomach ache. So that's what I mean by saying that they arise different ways and are identified differently. So emotions do not depend on individual needs being met or not. So this is something I'm finding to be true now during this quarantine, where some parents have stated like, they have everything they need. Why are they sad, right? I just recently was answering this morning, replying an email of the mother of one of two of my patients, and she's telling me, Dr. Landers, but they have air conditioning, they have their computers, they have food. I'm here with them. Yeah, those are needs, and they're probably blessed to have or to have that, but that doesn't mean that all of their needs are met, and that doesn't mean that they cannot feel sad, because probably there are other emotional needs or social needs or needs, connection needs, that are not being met. So emotion do not depend on individual needs being met, because it's a reaction. So maybe I'm going through something, maybe one of my friends is going through something, and I have all my needs met, but someone I love is suffering, so that's gonna provoke an emotion in me. So understanding emotions. Here are some pictures, right, that can illustrate, and maybe we can identify ourselves with some of those that are probably reactions that we may have usually or have experienced throughout our lifetime. So there are types of basic emotions, right? And we have probably the most common ones is happiness, and then there's sadness, there's fear, there's disgust, there's anger, and there's surprise. This is an example of how we can assess emotions in children. And sometimes you might be surprised, we could use this with adolescents too, because emotions is something that is not being taught since they're little kids. So because they're innate, they're gonna feel this intensity, but they don't know how to name it. Okay, they don't know that what they're feeling is anger, okay, or it is sadness. They know there's something going on. There is an energy inside of them, but they don't know it is called happiness or it is called sadness. So if you don't know what you're feeling, there's not a name for that. It is very difficult, first, for you to express it to someone else, and two, to manage it. So there's something very useful I use, and it's images like this one or faces, and I help the children understand, how does that make you feel? And they will point out that image that best relates to what they're feeling. So when they signal some or choose one of the images, I will give them the name. Oh, that what you say you're feeling is happiness. And then they begin to give a name to all that energy that's feeling, and that makes things much, much easier for them. So there's something that happens a lot, is that people, we see normally that some people mix or confuse what I feel with what I do. Okay, so there's sometimes that there's a mix between the emotions and the actions. Okay, and probably that's where saying that there are negative, emotions and positive emotions come from. I'm gonna give you a very simple example. If I am angry and I throw my phone against the floor and break it, uh, throwing the phone on the floor and breaking it is not anger. It's not a feeling. It's not what I feel. That is what I do. So being angry is okay. Just being angry is okay, because it's something that is innate. That's something that comes from me, and I have to let it flow, right? So, but what I do with that action can be, what I do in response to that feeling is what I can classify as good or bad. If I feel anger, it's okay. If I go walk around, it's still okay. If I punch my best friend in the face, that's what's wrong. That's what we have to deal with, because we always have options. So my message to you today is to let children know that it's okay to feel angry, that it's okay to feel sad, that it's okay to feel excited, that it's okay to feel happy. What's not okay is harming themselves, harming others, or destructing property, right? Or doing something that may cause damage to someone or to something, okay? So how do we manage emotions? Here are some concepts that can apply to everyone, okay? For example, we can talk about emotional resilience, okay? This is no other than the ability to adapt to stressful situations, okay? Or the ability to adapt to those stressful situations and to deal with life's ups and downs. So it also refers to the effective management and adaptation in difficult and adverse moments. So the key word here is adapt, right? Or adaptation. So resilience is none other than the ability to overcome any difficult situation. So it is important, because when we talk about resilience, okay, it's a group of characteristics or key elements that need to be working at the same time, or probably most of them, so we can deal with this effectively. So when we have resilience, uh, usually it's because our self-esteem is high. We don't have a non-judgmental mind, which refers to that when something happens, I'm always blaming myself. Okay, there are things that happen that are out of our control. So when we have a non-judgmental mind, is the ability to know that not everything is my fault, even though it happens to someone that is under my care or under my supervision. If my kid runs and falls down, it's gonna hurt. Of course, it's gonna hurt. We don't like people or we love getting hurt, but when we apply the non-judgmental mind, is knowing that that's not my fault. If you run, there's a big possibility that you can fall. So this is what this means. Mindfulness is the ability or this strategy to connect with oneself, and it also emphasizes in not being judgmental with ourselves. Emotional regulation, which is not other than controlling our emotions. letting them be, identifying them, but acting upon them in a good way. Okay. Also, positive coping strategies that it's none other than how I deal with things in the most productive way. Okay. Flexibility is the ability to adapt. Okay. If right now I want to be with my friends, but I can't because the gatherings are not permitted, because I have to take care of myself, because I could get sick. So the flexibility is, how do I adapt things that I used to do, but doing them in another way. Also, strong relationship. The support groups are amazing. It could be co-workers, it could be friends, it could be family members. It's always like those go-to persons that we should have in our lives, with whom we could share experiences and share our frustrations, but also share happy moments too. And the spirit of freedom, that's a decision, a personal decision for everyone, okay? And that should be respected too. So when we have emotional resilience, it doesn't mean that it eliminates the difficulties, but it does help us face them, okay? So now, because I say, wow, I am emotional resilient, that doesn't mean I'm not gonna have any problems anymore. What that means is that I'm gonna have the strategies, right, and the tools to deal with whatever life brings at me, and that it's not going to be perfect, but probably I'm going to manage it in a more positive way. So what strategies can we use for management emotions? The first thing I like to teach people or let people know is that it's very important to acknowledge what or how I'm feeling. You know, when one of our kids or students keep on calling us miss, 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 well, think about that. The kid calling and repeating miss over and over again is your emotion. Okay. Your emotion needs to know that you know that it is there. Okay. So when we acknowledge our emotion or how I'm feeling, it calms it down. It lets it know she knows or he knows. Okay. For example, I'm in a meeting, someone says something I don't like, okay? And I don't want to give the impression that I'm angry, but my response is anger. So it's there. The anger is there. So in a way, I have to tell my emotion that I know it is there. For example, I will say, I'm angry, but I'm not going to do anything about it right now. Okay? I know you're angry. Okay, and it's the same way we could do with kids, helping them understand, okay, what are you feeling? I don't like that. Okay, are you angry? Yeah, okay, you're angry. It's okay to be angry. Okay, so we need to acknowledge what we're feeling. Also, the self-awareness. um, Recognize emotion when they arise, both in ourselves and in others. Okay, so this is going to help us in the prevention. This is going to help us because we know how usually our kids are going to respond to certain situations. So when we have self-awareness, we try to manage the situations in a way that the people who are near us are not that affected. So when we have self-awareness, we can help, it can help us answer, sorry, the following objectives. What or how am I feeling? Okay. What made me feel this way? What am I doing and why am I doing it? Okay. Why is she told me my work was not good. Okay. How does that make me feel? Okay. Why does it make me feel this way? Or I am angry. What made me feel angry? Because that's gonna help me understand myself. And the more I understand myself, the more I can accept how I feel, and the more I can control how I react to it. Okay. Then we need to identify a space or time to reflect on what we're feeling, especially during this pandemic. okay? We are living 24-hour days that are intense, okay? We're normally or daily in a same place with the same people all over and over again, okay? So this can be tiring. And it's okay because we are humans, first of all, and second, because we're not used to living together so many hours a day, okay? Our responsibilities as if we work outside the house, the kids are in school usually, that the moments where we are together are usually minimum, okay? Maybe 2-3 hours, 2 or 3 good hours a day, okay? We have parents in less in communities where economic hardship is one of the characteristics, and where maybe parents have 2-3 jobs a day and we hardly see each other. So this pandemic has brought us together in a same place all day long. So in those places, we need to find a space or a time to reflect on what you're feeling. Ideally, it could be a spa day, or maybe walk around the block, or maybe going to the park and reading a book and a self picnic, right? Alone time. But that is ideal. We need to work with the reality. And if the reality is that I cannot leave my house, I need to identify a space or a time in which I could just sit down and ask myself, okay, how are you feeling today? Okay, why are you feeling this way? What can you do? Okay, and how can you act? What things can you do to make that better? Okay, that is very important. And this space or time can be 5 minutes a day, it could be 30 minutes a day. Okay, probably if everybody gets up at 6:30, you could get up at 6 and have half an hour of me time. If everyone goes to bed at 10, you could go to bed at 10:30 and have that half an hour. Okay, so it's whatever works according to your reality. So this is something I use with kids, but just maybe January, February, I started using it with some of my adults too. And it's the stoplight, right? Strategy. And it's to think in these 3 words: stop, think, and act. So every time you are faced with a difficult situation, think about that stoplight, okay? So usually, this is a very good analogy, because stop means we cannot go through, right? We have to take a minute. And the stop, what really means is that you take the time to think, what are what is going on? What is happening? Okay. So what are you going to do? And then you're going to think, okay, what you're going to do, how you're going to do it. Sorry. It is the safest way. If I, think about your options. Can I do it better? Do I have the right tools, or do I know the right way to express what I'm feeling right now? Okay. Do I have what I need to go on? And then once you have analyzed this, you then act in the safest way. Okay. And here it says to follow the proper procedures. Don't rush. Okay. You try to find, there's no perfect way of dealing with some things, but you have to do the best within what's available to you. Okay. And sometimes we have a lot of time to do this process, but sometimes this is something that we have to do at at minutes time. So you need to try to think red, yellow, and green, and try to analyze the situation as the best as you can. Okay, and it's gonna help you react in the best way possible. So as for timeout. Okay, and timeout in this situation is a break. It's not a punishment. It's not a way to calm down, but it's because you're misbehaving. I mean, but yes, you can ask for timeout. Okay, and anyone. Okay, children, adolescents, adult, we could ask for a timeout. okay? It is okay to take a break, okay? So everyone is entitled to a break. So this is the symbol, right? Usually in games and activities where people need a timeout, that's what they do. You can establish this in your classrooms. You can establish this at home, at work. You know, when I do the signal, I need a break. You know, you're pushing my limits, or probably I'm not feeling good, or I cannot speak and I don't want to speak because I cannot probably control what I'm going to say and how it's going to come out. So these are signals, and we can just, learn and establish these rules in our surroundings, so people know what we're asking for, and it's okay to ask for a break. Okay, we don't need to know everything or be on top of everything all the time. Okay, so practice relaxation. And as I said before, they're ideal situations. Okay, I could relax in a spa or a retreat for a weekend, right? And come back to the reality more with another mindset. But that's not the reality, right? For many of us, and for because of the situation we're living, and because of our economic reality, or employment reality, or family reality. Okay, so what do? We do the best that we can with what we have. Okay, so we can do breathing exercises, and anyone can say, of course we have to breathe, if not we die, right? But sometimes we breathe and we don't take we are not conscious of how we're doing it. So if we do something as simple as breathe in, okay, hold for 5 to 10 seconds, depending on the age. Depending, we have to be aware of kids that have asthma or any respiratory condition in which this can be a negative exercise instead of doing good. So we need to explore that. But probably to those kids, they can even breathe for 3 seconds, hold it, and then breathe out. Okay. And we can also do deep breathing exercises in which we concentrate on how that oxygen runs through our nose and goes all through our lungs, and we feel our lungs filling up, and then it's something more profound. So we can go online and find many exercises, breathing exercises, and some of them are combined with music. Some of them are combined with words, so that we repeat to ourselves. They're combined with visualization exercise that is just focusing on a color while you are breathing. So there's a lot of combinations and a lot of resources out there. We can also identify a calming corner or a safe place in our houses or in school. I remember when I was an English as a second language student, teacher here in Puerto Rico, there was one of our kids who had autism. And when he felt overwhelmed, he just stood up and went to the special ed room because it had air conditioning. Okay, so we identified the special ed room as his safe place. So we just let him go, and he just left the room, sat there, didn't speak a word. And once he calmed down, that usually lasted between 5 or 10 minutes, he just came back to the room, sat down, and continued. So we can have a calming corner or a safe place, and we could send our students there. We could send our children and even our adolescents, even our adults. We could do that at home, right? This is the calming corner. And when someone is there, we know that we respect their space and we give them their time. Also, listening to music. Usually it's relaxing music, right? Keep quiet for a minute. This is so overrated. I had a patient and I tried to do this exercise with her, and I started because she's this kind of person that's always on the go. And we tried to do these exercises, and this exercise, and I just told her, keep quiet and close your eyes. Don't think about anything for 1 minute. I'll let you know. She opened her eyes at 15 seconds, at 25 seconds, already, are we done? So we're not used to disconnect. So 1 minute, keep quiet. It's like restarting or rebooting your computer. Okay. And self-instructions. We need to talk to ourselves, because the body will respond to whatever we tell them to. Okay. If you start repeating right now, wherever you are, I hate this webinar. I don't like her. I don't like this information. This information is not useful at all. Your body is going to react to that. Your demeanor is going to change, and it's going to be like negative. It's going to feel, um, uh, uh, like overwhelmed. But if instead of that, you start speaking to yourself and telling you, okay, calm down. Okay, there's 15 minutes left. Let's see what's going on. We can always learn something. That kind of self-instructions, right? And you tell yourself, relax, calm down, take it easy. You'll find a solution. This will help you relax in an indirect way. Okay, so there are simple things that we can use as adults, but we can also adapt to children and adolescents. Okay, you'll be surprised how well our adolescents react to these strategies. And at first, adolescents seem to be resistant, right? They won't care, or probably act as, yeah, I know, I don't need that. But they listen, and they can, if you let them know that you care and show them, they'll probably put them into practice. Okay. A funny note that I wanted to include, and it says, anyone can feel furious. That's easy. But being furious at the correct person, with the correct intensity, in the correct moment, in the correct way, for the correct reason, that surely isn't easy. Okay. So not even our emotions make sense all the time. Okay. So how do we deal with children and adolescents specifically? Okay, both at home and at school. These are things, and even in after school programs, if we have, or anywhere where we gather children or adolescents, it's observation is key. Okay, when we look at our children, we could see when we stop and take the time and observe, right? Sometimes their nonverbal can tell us a lot. The way in which they're reacting tells us a lot too. We need to listen. It's very common for us to try to give solutions and to resolve, right? If I'm a teacher and a student has a problem, my instinct will be, or my first approach, to try to resolve. But we don't need to resolve everything that happens. Sometimes by listening, we can accomplish more than giving a list of possible solutions. So ask if something is going on. We shouldn't be afraid to ask. Okay, do not assume. We cannot, because a kid is serious, we cannot assume that he's sad or that he's angry. Okay, so we ask, and usually we recommend asking with open-ended questions, okay, instead of closed questions like which answers are yes or no. So when we do open questions, we give them the opportunity to answer say whatever it is they want to say, okay? So guide them through the identification process, okay? It's going to be very difficult for kids and adolescents to say, I am angry, especially now when we're seeing a lot of frustration. This is a complex emotion because it's a mix of sadness, and it could be a mix of anger, and it could be a mix of many other things, that it's basically a frustration because there's a lot of things going on that they cannot change, or they cannot do anything about. So it's very important. How do we guide them? With images, with resources. We can look up for videos that talk about different emotions, so they're gonna connect. When we give them the visual support, or that visual uh, um, help, they're gonna, or visual aid, I mean, they are going to, it's gonna help them understand, or they're gonna help them identify, yeah, that's how I'm feeling. Okay, so when they say that's how I'm feeling, you give them the name. Oh, what you're feeling is frustration, or what you're feeling is anger. Okay, so you help them understand and provide space. Okay, sometimes we think we need to be there all the time. Okay, kids and adolescents need space. Now it's a supervised space. Okay, we cannot let them refrain from anything without a reason. You know, we give them some time, but every few minutes we go and knock on the door. Everything okay? We could leave our doors open. So it's like a supervised space. Okay. Very important to validate their emotions. You know, I understand your anger. Okay, okay, yeah, the teacher wouldn't answer your question. I understand. How can you be angry? Okay, instead of letting them know, don't be angry at that. Why are you gonna be angry for that? I don't understand. No, you know, tell them, okay, you're angry, I get it, that's it, that's what they need. And also, instead of telling them you don't have to cry, okay, I can only imagine how sad this must be. Okay, or it's okay to cry if you want to cry. Okay, so validation means that I understand whatever it is you're feeling, okay, or whatever it is, it's going on. Okay, so validating doesn't require much more than letting them know that you know what they're feeling and that you understand. Okay, this, even though you wouldn't react the same way that they would. Okay, so no confrontation. When someone is dealing with intense emotion, confrontation doesn't suit well. Okay, if someone is angry, we need to be the balancing point, right, where we let this person lower their intensity. Okay, when they're in a high emotion, feeling a high emotion, many of their senses are not on point. So anything you say or anything you try to do probably won't get through to them. Self-awareness of emotional responses in others that bother me. Okay, yeah, you are, when you are angry, you say or do something that affects me. So it's very important to create that self-awareness, and why do I respond that way, and also make others conscious of how they react in certain ways. Okay, because probably they don't know it, or they're not self-aware of what they're doing. And also seek assistance from peers, friends, colleagues, etc. And this especially with teens, right? The teens and parents get when they are in a specific stages, parents seem like their enemies, and adolescents think that we jumped that that stage in their life. They think nobody has gone through what they're going through, so it's very difficult to connect with them. So in that way, we could use assistance or help from coaches, from teachers, from neighbors, from significant family members, aunts, uncles, right? Especially in Latinx communities, when we know that they're very close knit, right? They tend to be close knit, and where other family members have important roles in their lives. Okay. There are very important facts that only 1 in 5 Latinos with symptoms of psychological disorder approach a doctor. Okay. And 1 in 10 Latinos approach a mental health professional. So this is not something they're used to doing. So we need to provide information. We need to let them know it's okay. We need to let them know that anyone can go through a difficult moment, and that seeking for help is not does not mean that you're weak, does not mean that you are not doing your job well. So it's just as going to, we need to let them understand, especially in vulnerable communities, that they're okay and they're entitled to help. They're entitled to take care of themselves physically and mentally. Okay, so that's very important. So it's okay to seek for help. You should identify available resources. This is something I stress, and I'm going to keep on stressing throughout my webinars because it's very important to me to let you know and to let other people know that there are resources. You know, you could count on your family, friends, co-workers, other parents, peers, support groups, but it's important to ask. Okay, it's important to ask. And if you are afraid or you feel do not feel comfortable talking about it with people you know, so then you could approach mental health professionals, main physicians. And I know that every state and probably and there's a national crisis hotline in which it's confidential. You don't even have to say your name, so you can feel if you don't want to go to someone face to face, you can grab your phone. And the thing is to talk about it. Okay, so let it out, and don't accumulate all of those feelings and emotions that eventually can be get worse. Okay, so that's all on my part. So if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them.
Hi, Dr. Landers. We have a couple of questions, I think. Let me see. We have a comment that says practicing self-compassion is key, and that goes in accordance to what you were saying. And also we have a question that says, what is the difference between temperament and personality?
Yeah, that's a little bit complex question, but temperament is the biological part, right? It's composed of from the combination of genes between the persons that created you, right? So it's something that it's part of you, and it's basically constant throughout life. Okay, personality has much to do with experiences. It also has to do with temperament. There's a combination, but it you can adapt your personality as you grow, as you learn, as you face different experiences. While temperament usually is quite standard. Okay, it's quite permanent through life.
Okay, thank you. We have a couple of comments about that. It was a good webinar, and it was an amazing presentation.
Thank you.
Remember, this is for the attendees, that you can type your questions in the question parts of the control panel that you have in the GoToWebinar dashboard. I'm gonna check the chat. Okay. Very well explained. Thank you, Dr. Landers. There's someone
You're
asking
welcome.
how to get a copy of the PowerPoint. If you go to the handouts section in the GoToWebinar control panel, we have the handout for this part of the series. Also in the chat, I put the link to Hispanic and Latino Mental Health Technology Transfer Center website, and we will have the recording of the whole series when it's completed, and also the PowerPoint presentation. Okay. We have another question here, and it reads, how do you provide services to students in a school setting when the parents themselves need to seek services? Many times I run into this issue. I can provide education to parents, but many times they are left wanting more. Parent and students' health is so interwoven. Any suggestions, doctor?
Yeah. this is something that we see a lot when we're and um, when we're dealing with a child, right, or a student, any student. We can provide the best help there and the best resources, but their environment keeps being the same, right? So if mom and dad probably need help or mom needs help, we need to find a way to integrate them into the process, okay? So, and we need to be vocal about it, right? Probably if our schools don't provide that resource for parents, we need to let our principals and administration know the needs of our specific students. Okay, probably in my school that's not an issue, but in your school it is. So we need to be vocal about it. We can include parents in conjoined sessions. I do that a lot in my private practice, and it has turned out amazing. And some things that I do is that I prepare the students to talk to the parents as role plays. I let them do like practice beforehand, and then I prepare the parents and let them know, this is what's going on. This is how the session is gonna be. This is what we're trying to accomplish through this session, or this is our goal. And when we get the sessions, we empower the students to feel comfortable expressing to their parents whatever it is they need. And then we let the parents respond to that. And after they respond, we give the space to parents to let them know, right? And we train them in a way of speaking from you instead of saying, I feel this way, instead of saying you are doing this wrong. So there's a specific things that we can do, but I think that communication is the key, right? Communicating ourselves with the parents, with the kid, with the students, letting the students communicate themselves, empowering them in that way, and also letting our administrators know, our leaders know what our students need. Okay, so communities are specific. There are specific communities for each schools, and their needs are different. So we talked about the cultural background, we talked about the reality of our communities, and when we need to know what's going on and what they need, so we can be able to provide and ask our leaders or the people who make those decisions for those specific resources for our students.
Okay, thank you so much. We have another question, and it says, how can we support Latinx boys who are disengaging from distance learning?
Well, I mean, I think the first thing we need to assess is why are they acting this way, or what's going on? What's the reason for them to be disengaging? Okay, I think that would be the first step, and then try to see how we can supply or provide, I mean, the needs for those specific boys, right? Latinx boys that are disengaging. So my first suggestion is to assess what's going on. Okay, see if there's something that is not being, they're not feeling comfortable with, or something happened, or there's a lot going on. There's a lot going on, especially for Latinx communities and minorities. So we need to assess and know how are they feeling. Is there something going on at home? Is it something we are doing at school? Is there a specific learning disability or something that doesn't help them connect or engage with virtual learning? So for me, the first step is assessing. Always assessing is the go-to recommendation.
Perfect, thank you, doctors. We have a couple more
Mhm.
questions. Due to the pandemic, We are all grieving many forms of losses. Many children and adolescents are experiencing an increasing of mental health stress due to physical and emotional abuse. Elaborate more on how to better assist our children.
Okay, the part on loss during the pandemic, we're gonna assess it next Tuesday on the third part three of our three-part webinar series. Um, when we need to in some way um, let our students speak. Okay, we need to find ways to let them, to provide safe spaces in which through which they can express themselves. Okay, remember that prior to the pandemic, to what we're dealing now, there were mental health problems. There were children that were suffering. There were children that were in violent homes or violent communities or facing different stresses, as I stated at the beginning of the presentation. So what the pandemic has brought is an added pressure. Okay, so what we are seeing now is the kids that already had many situations going on are adding another one. Okay, and children that probably were stable or that were mentally healthy, right, that were stable, are now adding a stress that they weren't used to and they weren't prepared to. So I think that we need, as I stated before, assess and also have this one-on-one with our students. That is so, we need it so much, because when we are face to face, we can see that nonverbal. We could hug our kids, and sometimes there's a lot of things they're going through, that when a teacher hugs me or a teacher recognizes me or says my name or shares a candy or applauds something I do, that can calm down some, or that can compensate for all the suffering I'm going through in school. Or probably I don't have to express myself and my teacher can see that nonverbal and catch up on it and do something. So those are the things that we're losing through the virtual and the distance learning. So we need to find ways to compensate for that. Okay, so I don't have them to hug them. How can I provide the effect of a hug that it's never, never, ever gonna be the same? But how can I provide a similar experience through what I have? Okay, maybe a one-on-one. I've seen some examples of teachers that have office hours, and then they tell the students, I want to see you in office hours today, and the excitement in some of them, because they're going to meet one-on-one with the teacher. So this is the way that we try to keep connected, and don't let that this space that has come between us be larger than what it is right now.
Thank you so much for that explanation. Let me see. We have, we have time for maybe two more questions. We have
Yeah,
one that says, how to discipline a child that is oppositional at home.
yeah. When we're dealing with oppositional, we and that's another topic completely, right? That it's quite complicated. But usually when children are oppositional, we have to refrain from the confrontation, and kids that tend to be oppositional do not suit well. Also, negative words like no, don't, you can't, because they don't deal good with those words. So my first suggestion is the message should be in positive. Like, instead of saying don't jump on the sofa, instead of using that, we could say, can you please sit down on the sofa, or can you please get off the sofa. So try to eliminate negative word, in a negative connotation words like no, don't, can't, all of that. No confrontation. Structure is very important. Okay, there are things that are non-negotiable, and I think we need to state them from the beginning, and we should be consistent. When we don't like today, we shouldn't like it tomorrow either. Okay, with kids with this type of behavior, we need to set rules, we need to be structured, and we need to be consistent. So what I don't like today, I don't like tomorrow, and it's not permitted today, it's not permitted tomorrow. So, and the structure is very important. What we do, what we can do, and communication, let them know what is acceptable and what is not. But it's also a work in progress, and I would suggest, to probably research a little more other than the recommendations I'm giving, because each case is individual, right? So there are some tailor-made recommendations, but there are other things that can vary from person to person.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, a problem that I see with incarcerated adolescents that I work with is that they are released back, as an example, of a two-bedroom apartment where 8 to 10 family members live, thus no space to be alone or get over emotions. And they wear ankle bracelets, so they cannot leave. Any suggestions for this?
For this example, yeah, it's a very difficult situation. Okay, it's a very difficult situation. And as I stated before, they're ideal situations. Okay, probably when we think of having a space is being in a comfortable bed and watching a movie and turning off the phone and buying takeout, and that's not the reality for many of them. And I guess that for this case that you're giving me as an example is not, but we need to make it work. Okay, so 8 people, there has to be a way to find a space. Okay, and probably test the limits of our bracelets, see where is, to what point can I go. A space for me can be the time in the shower. Okay, there's parents that I work with, and that's their special, that's their no. This is me time. So locking that door and being in that space in the bathroom while you take a shower, that could be your me time. Okay, it's how you use it. Yeah, it's something you need to do. You need to take a shower, but you could take a 5-minute shower, or you could just spend 5 more minutes, even if you turn the water off, and take those 5 minutes to disconnect. It's like a power nap. Okay, you probably sit down in a chair and go close your eyes for 10 minutes, and you can get a boost of energy. That's the same way of the me time. Okay, we need to let people know that me time can be whatever I need it to be. Okay, it's not a recipe, a standard recipe. My me time can differ from yours in many ways. So what the point is, and what I'm trying to get to, is that we try to see the reality of this person specifically and try to work around it. Okay, so it's not gonna be the same as my me time. So I'm not gonna impose, or I'm not gonna suggest how to, or examples of me time. I'm gonna let them know how to identify a me time, and with their reality, help them find ways to do them. Like guide them. So it's gonna be difficult, yeah. it's not going to be ideal. No, it's not, but it's what you can find. You know, you could try your best to find 5-10 minutes to disconnect from the rest.
Okay, we have time for one more, and this one is, do you know of any resources for Latinx youth who are gang involved or affiliated?
To be honest with you, I'm in Puerto Rico, so this is not something we see a lot here. Okay, the resources. So I'm gonna have to say I don't really know. I don't have any information regarding that, but I'm sure that probably if you access through internet or maybe search, I don't know if our sponsors know about any, but personally, I do not. I do not know.
Okay. We have a couple more comments thanking you, Dr. Landers, for an amazing presentation as usual, and that it was a great webinar. Let me see. Yeah. I don't know if Dr. Miranda wants to close or say anything more regarding this series, or you have any last comments, Dr. Landers?
No, I want to thank everyone staying connected and invite them for next Tuesday at 1 o'clock, in which we are going to finish this 3-part webinar series, and our topic is grieving process, dealing with loss during the pandemic. Okay, so I hope everyone has a nice day.
Thank you so much, and you can always access our website. I put the link up in the chat so they can go through our resources as well. And Dr. Miranda, are you there?
Yes, thank you so much, Dr. Lander and Ed Marie and all the attendees for being here. I also want to highlight the webinar series in Spanish will be October 13, 20, and 27. Also, we are celebrating the National Hispanic Heritage Month. The upcoming webinar will be on October 2nd, the evolution of Latino identities and mental health, a collaboration with the Pew Research Center. And also we have another webinar series with the National Hispanic and Latino ATTC, PTTC, and MHTTC that are also part of the presentation. You can look it up on the website. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for joining us. I put the link once again for the products and resources. Have a great afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you.